Hey there, everyone. Welcome to my channel. My name is Ryan Schul. So in the narrative today, I want to discuss about how we can build a generative RAG system, and we're going to use Python, of course, to do all the work. So what is RAG? You hear about this RAG here and there and everywhere. It's getting a lot of momentum. It's really showing up in the news a lot more these days than even like a few months ago or 6 months ago or whatever. Basically, it's an acronym for retrieval augmented generation. So this is this system that works within an LLM framework that basically retrieves relevant facts from a knowledge store. This can be documents, tables, APIs, whatever source of data you have. It can be anything, right? Think about Excel spreadsheets, text files, CSV files, whatever it is. It can go ahead and fetch that data and pull it back, chunk the content. Okay, so it looks at this in chunks or in bits and um, like digestible pieces of information, almost like a person would look at it, right? You can't just dump a whole ton of data into a computer and expect it to understand everything. It feeds in chunk by chunk by chunk by chunk, just like a human reads it, right? If you give a person a book and say, okay, read the book, you're gonna have to read page by page, right? You can summarize, you can speed read, but you can't just like take the cover, take the book, flip it on its upside down so it's on its cover, and then say I read the book. Like that, that's not going to work, right? So you have to read chunk by chunk, and the computer has to do the same thing. So go through and just iteratively read all this data. You consume it, you can learn it. So there's queries that run that fetches the data. They have to expand, rewrite the questions, retrieve the top number of passages that matches what you're looking for. It could be a summary, it could be a request. You could have some kind of, you could say, give me a recommendation for something, right? So it has to understand what is being done, and it returns the top K or N would be number, short for number, of passages, right? It packs those as snippets or chunks into a prompt, and then the LLM generates a response and creates citations for the most part, not always, but you see more and more citations, just so the tool isn't just going back and saying, okay, this is my response to your request. Like it actually comes back and validates it too, right? So you can look up and make claims against these citations, right? So why do we even use that? Basically, it keeps answers current, right? So some LLMs actually become obsolete very quickly if new content comes out today or yesterday or 2 days ago. That might not necessarily be in an LLM system, and it probably won't be, right? Because the learning stops at a certain point, and then after a while they'll pick up the learning again, but it's not continuously learning like a person. It doesn't learn new things every single day, right? But with a RAG system, it is much more up to speed, much more real-time based than these LLMs are, right? So for summaries, for comparisons, for decision making, right, it's very useful for that. For key design choices, again, chunking the data and digesting it and retrieving it, and running encoders and ranking and diversification of responses, making sure that the response is coherent and it makes sense, right? Generating those citations, so that's very important too. Fact checking, we set up guardrails for safety, right? So the LLM and the RAG doesn't go way off down some rabbit hole or something and come back with some weird response that's completely irrelevant, right? So guardrails help too. Common pitfalls are wrong chunks, wrong sizes of chunks. I've run into this problem before. Outdated indices, freshness of the response, right? Ungrounded or unfounded responses. So again, citations are key, right? And RAGs will help with those. So you'll get data that is current, that has citations for validation, right? And it tends to not hallucinate. With some of these LLMs, it seems to be very, very apologetic, and you can make any kind of request, and the LLM jumps up and says, oh, I'm going to help you with this, I'm going to help you with that. But sometimes the requests are really not very meaningful, and sometimes just very, very completely wrong, right? But the RAG tends not to do this. It tends to be very relevant, very fresh, and again, the citations are there, right? So you can validate what you're looking at. It's not just like, okay, it kind of feels right, it kind of looks right. Like, no, this is right, and this is why it's correct. So I'm not actually going to run this in most of my notebooks. I run these things I had all these files sitting in this folder on my desktop. So here's my desktop right here. I had financial statements. I had these files right here, 2004 annual report, proxy statement, balance sheet example, management report, and then organization statement of financial income and expense.pdf. So I had these 5. I wasn't even going to create this video. I kind of like did the whole thing and then put it on the back burner, forgot about it, and then deleted the files in the desktop. And then I just found this thing a couple of days ago. So I don't want to go back and research for these files, but let's just pretend it's on my desktop. I'm just not going to go ahead and run the whole thing. But if you copy and paste this code, I'm going to share all this code with you in your Jupyter notebook. You copy paste that, and you have this API key from ChatGPT. You need the API key. So you can get your key if you go to this link right here, Control C and Control V. And I'm not sure if I logged in through this browser or another browser. Yeah, I logged in through another browser. So it doesn't matter. I guarantee that is the link. You'll have to go ahead and get a key for yourself, download that, and put that onto your desktop or wherever you want to save it, okay? And name the file, right? So you have to have the key. Once the key is generated, it's going to be a long key. It's going to be at least 100 characters long. Put that into a text file. Name the text file whatever you want. Mine is called OpenAI_key.text. Put that in a place that you can read it. It doesn't matter if it's on your desktop or somewhere else. I like to put these things on my desktop. Put these PDF files. Just go ahead and grab 4 or 5 from the web. Put those into a folder, again, on your desktop or wherever, it doesn't matter, and go ahead and run the code. You can see right here, we have PDF loader, recursive character text splitter. So this was going to open up these 5 PDFs on my desktop. Again, I'm not running this thing because it's going to crash, but because it's only going to crash because I don't have the files anymore because I deleted the files, right? I was not going to make this video, but just a half hour ago, I decided to make the video for you guys. So go ahead, download a couple PDFs, put this in a folder, get your API key, put it right here, and I guarantee this is going to work. It's going to open up all the PDF files, scan through each one, send that to ChatGPT, okay? And it's going to run a RAG process. So it's going to take the ChatGPT response and kind of refine it and just make it more into a RAG, retrieval augmented generation, and make sure that there's no hallucination, make sure that the data is current, make sure the data is relevant, and that any citations or any kind of like proof of the response has been generated as well. So you could say, okay, here's your response and it's correct because of this, okay? So here's the chunk size. Remember I said that this thing runs in chunks. If you have a bigger chunk size, it can take more information, but if the chunk size is too big, it's going to crash on you, right? So if the chunk size is smaller, an 800 should be completely fine for what you're doing. If it's smaller, it'll take longer to read because you just have more, you just have less data going through those pipes, right? If the chunk is smaller, if it's bigger, it's going to be a lot faster. But again, too big, it's just going to fall down because it can't handle the volume of data that's coming through. So, so that's it. We chunked the data. We have the text splitter. So that's taking everything in all 5 PDFs, splitting it up, chopping it, delivering that to the LLM, goes through the RAG, so it gets cleaned up a little bit. Now we have a local searchable vector database that contains all the data for all the PDFs split into semantic chunks, okay? So the vector store is basically a searchable vector database, which is very fast, much faster than a standard SQL database. And it allows ChatGPT to go in and just almost instantaneously retrieve all the paragraphs from those PDFs, right? Feed those into the ChatGPT converter or system or whatever you want to call this thing. Get accurate, grounded answers with citations, right? So it just prints out a record of each PDF as it's being read into this chunk, this vector data store. So at this point, we are running ChatGPT 4. I found this one to be very affordable. Right? You do have to pay a small premium for these types of things, right? But it's just pennies. It's tinies of pennies for thousands of chunks. You'd have to look online. I don't know what the pricing is offhand. GPT, I see here. Pricing plans. You can just Google this. This is pretty simple, right? And it does change a little bit, but these things are pretty cheap. So here it says GPT Plus is $20 a month for advanced features, and ChatGPT for businesses is $20 to $25. There is a ChatGPT Pro for 200. I guarantee you don't need that. All you need is this $20 a month tool, and you can cancel anytime. They bill your credit card, right? So some of these things are totally free. If you use the free version of ChatGPT, there's no charge for that. But if you're using these RAG systems and if you're making requests to ChatGPT, you're going to have to pay a small fee for that. It's less than $1 a day, totally worth it. So so that's it. So here's the question that I'm asking. Once all the contents of those 5 PDFs are sent into the vector database, right? What is the main risk clauses mentioned in the contracts? So I'm kind of trying to trick the system a little bit because these aren't actually contracts. This is an annual report. This is a proxy statement. This is a balance sheet, right? But it's smart enough to say, okay, no, it's not really a contract per se, but you're talking about main risk. So I can work with that. It's almost going to ignore this. And mentioned is nice to have. You don't need that. You don't need in the, right? And all you need is like the main risk clauses, right? That's all you need. That's what it's going to focus on. And then it's going to print the answer and the source documents. So we go down here. Here's a little message that pops up. We can ignore that. So here's the answer right here. The main risk clauses mentioned in the contract include if the company fails to meet the customer's expectations or fixed milestones. So that sounds like risk, right? The customer could terminate their contract with the company or claim that the company breached their obligation. Sounds like a risk, right? So it basically just takes this main risk and it knows that this is a clause. So there's something here that's being mentioned that needs to be explored. It needs to be exposed, right? So it's focusing probably just on risk. You can probably just say main risk or just risk. What is risk? And it knows based on the content of that vector database that's been created, right? Which is consistent or which consists of those 5 PDF files. It knows what to do. It's a pretty smart thing. So the second risk here is legal risk exposure, such as class action, regulatory investigations, can impair the company's reputation. So that's a risk, right? And it already knows that. The company's insurance policies may not cover losses incurred if their systems data are compromised. That sounds like a risk, right? It's pretty smart and knows what to do. This RAG is really performing pretty well at this point. There's a risk that the company's insurance policies may not continue to be available. Okay, so it's now the risk of the company's risk exposure related to changes in interest rates and foreign currency exchange. That's definitely a risk. The participant's willful failure to perform his or her responsibilities are a violation. The participant's commission of any act or fraud, investment dishonesty, or other willful misconduct sounds like a risk. Unauthorized use of disclosure by the participant of any proprietary information or trade secrets, that's definitely risky behavior right there, risky business. And the participant's material breach of any of his or her obligations under any agreement with the company, including restrictive covenants, right? So it printed out the sources for each one of these. That's nice too. And then optional here is summarize each document from each lang chain, summarize reports, load summary chain. So we have summary chain right here. And this is the summary right here. For all 5 of these PDFs, it comes up with 2004 PDF solution reported, strong performance, 179.5 million. So we're switching from risks to a summary report, right? So basically, it's summarizing the contents of those 5 files. And it goes on to say the company recently acquired SecureWise, a remote connection solution for semiconductor equipment. Okay. It's a summary amidst and insert changes, including the declaration of Moore's Law, PDF solutions, and AI maintained robust data protection. The company also filed all necessary reports with the US SEC, complying with SEC Act 1934. Okay, so that is pretty cool. And I'm not going to do this for obvious reasons. The files are missing. But if you wanted to give it more information, you can just say, please give me 5 PA range. And so you can give it more instructions. And it's going to follow the instructions because this RAG system is so smart. It's just going to understand what the ask is, and it's going to go ahead and deliver what you requested, right? And it just gets back to you with whatever you with whatever you need. Okay, so that's it. That is pretty much what I wanted to demo here. Pretty short video today. It's not going to be a huge one. Thanks for future consideration here. Add multimodal intelligence, improve document Q&A. That's question answering. That's what I just did there. I added a little more context over here. So I think that is a step in the right direction. Visualization and reporting. Yeah, obviously I didn't do any here. That might be nice to have. I don't know if you really need it for a summary of 5 documents. Maybe, maybe not. Productionizing it. So this is taking this and putting it into an environment that's running 24/7. So some kind of web-based AWS, Azure, GCP, something like that, making it available to people on your team or people in your department. That's productionizing it and deploying the model, right? And then further recommendations, if you're ready to level this up to the next step, start with this roadmap, summarize all PDFs side by side, add PDF tables extraction, deploy a basic chatbot in Streamlit. Maybe I'll create a video on that. That sounds pretty interesting. Use ChatGPT to simulate what-if questions and log queries and answers for a feedback loop. So that's it, guys. Let me save this short one today, just like I promised, right? And I will put that in an HTML file, and I will share all my code here with you guys so you have everything you need. The only thing you're going to have to do is go ahead and create an account right over here. So go to this link, create the account, go ahead and get a few PDFs, put that in a folder of your choosing. And when you get your account set up, you will have a big API key. This is going to be a monster, probably 100 characters, all kinds of random texts and alphanumeric characters and stuff like that. So take that, save it down. That is a good practice. You can actually put the API key directly into your Jupyter notebook, but then you can't share it with anybody and you're exposing your specific key that is registered to you. Something that's personal and confidential, you're sharing that with other people. You don't want to do that, right? So that's pretty straightforward, I think. So that's it, guys. I'm going to wrap it up. I'll share the code when I share the video. I'll post that later today, and I'm going to end it here. So under 18 minutes. This is a short one. I'm feeling good about this. Most of these drag on, and I like these short ones, to tell you the truth. I like these short ones. Okay, I'm going to stop here. Thanks for your time. Thanks for sticking through to the end, and I will see you when I post the next video, which should be soon. Bye for now.